Hello friends, welcome to Knitography. I'm Patricia and I'm coming to you for day 4 of my series of New Year's vlogs. I am once again in my studio and I'm hoping that later in the week I'm going to be able to get back to being on location, which is really the point of my vlog, is to be in different locations. But once again, it is very dark and it is quite late today. I've had a busy day at school and I am recording a little bit later than usual. I'm facing a huge deadline and I needed to, spend a bit more time on my work today. I also need to make sure that I have some downtime and some self-care time, and so it's going to extend my evening a little bit because those are things that are priorities for me. So I wanted to begin tonight's vlog by just answering a question about the shawl that I wore in vlog 1. And it's a really good thing that I brought the shawl to the studio because it needs a little repair. That's how much I wear this particular shawl. It's worn where I wove the ends in. You can see that I've got to do a little repair. But this is the Match and Move shawl by Martina Bem. I have shown this on previous vlogs, but I wear it often. And it's a really unique design because it's the way the increases are. It goes in one direction and then it begins to move in a completely almost a right angle direction, and it's so intriguing. This a shawl, the maths of it, the way it increases, and just how the stripes are developing. I just can't recommend this shawl enough. I think, when there's a lot of interesting mathematics in a project, I get really a lot of complicated, interesting technique. I get really engaged. I couldn't put this one down, just like I say that a lot about my knitting projects. But this is the Match and Move shawl by Martina Bem. If I didn't say it, I knit it out of Plucky Bellow, which is a wool cashmere blend. And I happened to be in this club. It was one of my, in the early days of my knitting when Bellow first came out. And I joined the club, and it is a superwash. But there's something about the Plucky Bellow that really is soft and it's luxurious. And so this shawl is quite a treat. And as I said, I have been rotating my shawls. I have built myself a very special shawl display rack in which it has a lot of knobs, and I have a lot of shawls. I've knit a lot of shawls, and what I did was on the end of the hook or the hanger, it was wooden, and what I did was I soap felted tops for it. I soap felted the ends of the hook, or the ends of the wooden pegs that are here, and I just soap felted them right down and let them dry, and I hang my shawls on there so that it takes care of the wool of the shawl. And that's a beautiful way to display your shawls. And I think I've shared a picture of that display on my Instagram feed. So if you're interested, you'll see how to connect with me and find me on Instagram in the down bar. So I want to talk a little bit about the knitting bag book. A lot of times when you are focused on something and you're talking about something, there's a lot of energy around it. And I know when I started the knitting bag book project, because it was a project for me, it was, of course, I've done this for many years now since I was ill. and used my knitting bag book as a tool for myself. And I took kind of a risk to share it with everybody. There was so much energy around the knitting bag book, and people were posting and they were talking about how they use their knitting bag book. And even recently someone left me a comment with another kind of reflection that I really, yes, I must remember to share that tomorrow. But and then some people have told me they're still carrying on with their knitting bag book, but sometimes when you're not talking about it, or it's not at the front of your thinking, you sort of lose the energy around it. And although for me, I use my knitting bag book every single day because I knit every single day, and I wanted to say that I'm using it even when I spin. I haven't sat down at all to spin until I kind of looked in my knitting bag book and I reflected a little bit, or I made some notes, or whatever I'm focused on. And if you're new to the channel and you don't know what a knitting bag book is, you should go back and look at some of my vlogs that talk about the knitting bag book, because it might be a tool that could help you. But anyway, we lose a lot of energy around something, and you can lose your motivation, and you can lose your habit of using it if you're not talking about it, or it's not in the front of your thoughts. So I just wanted to bring it up again and to say that if you are using your knitting bag book, I would like for you to tag me or reach out to me and let me know how it's going to use it in the new year. I don't do resolutions myself or anything like that. I don't do fad diets or anything, but I believe what the knitting bag book does for me is really centers me. It keeps a resolution for every day. So when you start a day, you have a resolution for that day. You have a resolution to move. You have a resolution to eat properly. You have a resolution to hydrate your body. You have a resolution to self-care. You have a resolution to your making. And for me, I have a resolution to make sure that I give back, that I'm focused on joy, and and also some goals that I have, or I've often thought that I might make a template of my knitting bag book to share with others if you're interested. I could make a template so you could see the layout of mine, because I really don't think we should share. I mean, look at my knitting bag book for January. I had a really beautiful book, and it was a sort of a Turkish book. It was so beautiful, and I picked it out, and my daughter wanted it, and she said, "Oh, I love that book." And so I have a bunch of these sort of I think I got them at Sustanegrena. If you're local, I got them in a pack for like 10 kroners or something. But it's the perfect size for my knitting bag book. But anyway, Emma wanted that book, and she loves to journal. So, of course, I gave it to her. And I just decided to use one of my plain books for January. But I don't think we should always share what we're writing in our knitting bag books, but I do think that we should continue to support each other in the use of them, because they can make a real difference in your mental health. They can make a real difference if you're battling an illness. They can make a real difference with your attitude. I'll never forget the post, the stories that people shared with me, and about how they were using it, and how that it had changed their attitude toward their coworkers, or made them feel better about themselves. So I've often thought that I might put a template on, sort of like a pattern for the knitting bag book. I might even upload it on Ravelry, I don't know, and share that. But if you're interested in that, if you are needing some guidance and you're not sure what to focus on, you know, these knitting journals, they're becoming so popular now, and it's kind of like the knitting bag book on a very fancy scale in a way. But some of them are focused on projects and your making. But for me, this is a real personal thing. And I often think that I might do something really special this year with a special kind of knitting bag book. I don't know. I'm thinking a lot about it. So if you don't know about the knitting bag book and you can't find the videos, please do contact me. But if you're struggling and maybe you need some motivation and you'd like a sort of template, do let me know. Reach out to me and start posting your knitting bag book again on Instagram. The hashtag is still there, knitting bag book. Even I have not posted my knitting bag book as much as I should, and I'm committed to start doing that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the knitting bag book. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about is, I told you yesterday that I was really going to break down the Selbuvotter like they do in the Selbuvotter book. I wanted to talk about the cuffs because there's rules about the cuffs between men and women's cuffs. I want to go back to the thumb because so many people are challenged with the thumb. I want to talk about the palm and how the thumb and the palm work together. The gusset, I hope I mentioned that, and the overhand of the Selbu mitten. And I'm going to do that. And thank you for your feedback if you've written to me to say that you're doing it. But what I really want to do today is I want to clarify how to knit the thumb gusset, and I want to take it to the next level because I did make a video and people use that video all the time. I get so many questions about that video and I get so many positive responses that it helped them and all of that. But I made a big mistake with that video. I got a question and it was from someone that just could not read patterns or words, or I don't know if they had dyslexia or what, but I'm a teacher and I know that sometimes if you have an auditory support or a visual support or something, that can help somebody. So this person actually wanted maybe to explain it in a video, and I thought, well, that could help a lot of people. But what I did was I made a huge mistake. When I told about it, I forgot to tell what to do in the next step. So I want to tell you that on my video, I talk about how to knit the thumb gusset. So tonight, I only want to tell you that after you knit the thumb gusset, you are going to put those gusset stitches on a waste yarn. Now, Rachel at Treehouse Knits, I really have to talk to her again because there is something so interesting in the Selbuvotter book and I totally overlooked it and I want to make that corrected. But anyway, it is about the waste yarn versus the adding the yarn. Now, I have never experienced with a Norwegian friend or in a Norwegian group of anybody that does this technique, but you will see in the Selbuvotter book, she has included that you can knit in a contrast colored piece of yarn and you can take it out. Now, I have no clue how that works, and I don't visually understand how you can knit it in. I don't know how it could be taken out. I guess it would have to be cut out. I really don't do afterthought socks or anything like that. I'm a cuff down girl. I'm a gusset, a heel flap and gusset girl, so I've never really done that. So I'm unable to help you with that technique, but maybe I can speak to Rachel at Treehouse Knits and she could take up this topic for us and show us, because she actually did it. And so anyway, I'm sticking to what I know and feel comfortable with, but I want you to know that it is in the Selbuvotter book. It is in the mitten book that Nina Grandelund-Satter, she also used this knitting in the contrast color yarn into her mittens, so it is a technique. I want to validate that. So anyway, when you knit the gusset, which you can hear about on my video, I don't want to repeat myself unless somebody really doesn't understand that. But when you put those stitches on the waste yarn, you're going to put, let's say, 11 stitches or 13 stitches or 15 stitches, depending on the pattern. When you put those on waste yarn, immediately you're going to cast on the exact same amount of stitches again. Now, what I want to tell you is, and I did do research for this, I contacted Norwegians. I had done my method that I had learned from my knitting group, or I forgot actually how I learned it, but I know I learned it in my Norwegian knitting group. I learned the backwards loop method, and I did some research to make sure that that was the way to do it and the traditional way to do it, and it is. So, you know, you're going to have a pattern for the palm. For example, you know, you're going to have this pattern for the palm. And the palm pattern is going to have, for example, this pattern says black, white, black, white, white, black, 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 white, white, black, white, black, white, just above the red line where you would put the thumb stitches on waste yarn. Now, how are you going to do that? You are going to do the backwards loop method with your black and white, or whatever color you're using, yarn. For example, you're going to do backwards loop with black, backwards loop with white, backwards loop with black, backwards loop with white, backwards loop with white, backwards loop with black, backwards loop with black, and so on, all the way across, and then you'll just simply continue knitting along that palm. I hope you can see. I'm going to move it closer. So there is a pattern here above the thumb, and you will cast on in pattern above the thumb using the backwards loop method. That is the way Selbuvotter are done. That is the way I do think all the modern patterns are presented. Now, what I want to say is, when you come around again, you knit across the thumb and the palm, and you go around and you come around again, I want to tell you that you will continue to knit in pattern, but look at the leg of the backwards loop, because I often, you know, the backwards loop method is really tight sometimes. You know, if you're a tight knitter, for me, it usually works okay now because I have a lot of experience. But if you come around and it's far too tight for you, I want you to knit that stitch through the back loop. And don't worry about it. That is a foundation row that no one will see at that area of the thumb. You know, it's not there, but it's here. No one will see that. And if you knit that through the back loop, that's going to be the easiest way to knit that unstable row the first time around. And when you get back around again, just knit it the way you would knit properly the regular knit stitch. That is a tip that I use a lot. If I have pulled my color work too tight or you know, my stranded knitting too tight, whatever, knit it through the back loop. Right there, you're not going to see it. What's most important is you get that first row, and I consider that the foundation row. So you're going to, again, use the backwards loop method. Now, not only is that going to establish a foundation row for you, the reason that you want to cast on in pattern is because then you don't have all the floats. You know, they want you to cast on in pattern so that you get your two colors of yarn across that thumb. You don't want to do it in all black because then your white's going to be hanging over here. So cast on in pattern. Now, I want to give you a tip. If above your thumb it is all white, don't just cast on in white. You know, if your mitten is black and white, do 3 whites, 1 black, 3 whites, 1 black, 3 whites, 1 black. Just do a pattern if there's not one there, and that will get your stitches across. But I don't really know of any Selbuvotter that don't have a pattern above the thumb. For example, this one, you know, this one here has a simple above the thumb, black, 3 whites, black, 3 whites, black. That's a pretty one. So that gets your colors across the thumb. And once you cast on in the backwards loop and you go around and you knit through the back loop to do that foundation row, and you're doing it in pattern, no one is going to see that. And you're going to have a much more stable thumb. Now, I always, on either side of the thumb, pick up when I'm doing the thumb, but I'm not going to talk about that today. I'm only going to talk about you knit the gusset, which I made a video about, and how to carry on knitting the palm. That's all I'm going to talk about today. And then I will talk about the thumb. I will talk about how do you stabilize and pick up the stitches to carry on knitting the thumb. Today is only about putting the stitches onto waste yarn and then casting on in the backwards loop method in pattern to carry on knitting the thumb. And that's what they did. You see here, they have casted on in pattern in this pattern here. This is on page 50 of the Selbuvotter book. You can see the photos, okay? And the only thing that it says, it's talking about the gusset. And it's talking about how gussets graduate up and everything. But I do think I covered that in my first video. If you have any questions about thumb gussets, or if you have any further questions about what I explained about putting 15 stitches on waste yarn, casting on 15 stitches, putting 12 stitches on waste yarn, casting on 12 stitches in the backwards loop method, just text me and I'll explain it further. So, the only other thing that I wanted to tell you is I told you that I had a project going on, and I also have a little design going on based on the stories in this book. And I am going to share the design with you as I go along. It is a mitten. It's a Selbu mitten. And it is, I am drawing it out, and I am going to knit it, and I'm going to share that in my vlogs. And I think it's going to be something that connects with a lot of you. This is a mitten with a story. And this mitten has been inside me for quite a long time. I've been drawing it, I've been sketching it, and it's really more than just a knitting pattern design. It is a knitting story. And this might give you a little clue. I got the yarn for it today. I'm going to start sharing it with you. I'm going to share the story with you, and I hope that those of you that are interested in stories, historical stories, will look forward to hearing the story of my little mitten design. So I am not a designer. I am not, that's not, I don't have all of that knowledge, but what I do know is this book has taught me a lot about taking my own ideas and making them into something. And since I read the stories in this book, I have always wanted this one mitten to come to life. So I hope that will be something interesting for you to follow. And I might start sharing this story during these New Year's vlogs. It depends on how far I get along with it. So I hope for those of you that are interested in stories, historical stories, and knitting historical stories, that you'll be interested in this little mitten story that I want to share with you. So there's a lot of exciting things coming up. I'm trying to make some of my little ideas and creativity and making come to life, and I'm really enjoying the process. So I hope to share a little bit of that story with you. So I'm going to say goodbye today, and hope that this video helped you if you're on your thumb. I'm going to come back to cuffs because we do have a question about the cuffs. And also, I did get a question about my project that I've been working on all summer, and something that's coming directly from my farm. And I also want to tell you that it is inspired by this book. So there is something in this book that I will connect it to when I share it with you, hopefully in the very next few days. And I hope you're going to be excited about that too. The other thing is, I have been so fortunate to have been chosen to go to Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I will, one of my favorite visits from Edinburgh Yarn Festival last year was Blacker Yarns, and I was not able to participate in the knit along last year, but this year I will be participating in the Blacker Yarns knit along as a podcaster in the podcaster lounge. I want to thank Knit British and Edinburgh Yarn Festival and Blacker Yarns for considering me and finding value in the stories that I tell. I'm a little small regional vlog, and it meant a lot to me that that stories and history and something that is regional and place-based was valued. So yeah, as long as I can tell stories and meet other people that connect to those stories, I'm happy for that. So I'm very pleased, and I wanted to say, if you're interested in joining the Blacker Yarns Knit Along, I'm going to be posting the information on Instagram. It starts on Monday, and I want to tell you the source for Blacker Yarns in the United States is the woolly thistle. So if you want to participate by knitting anything in Blacker Yarns, you can get a pair of socks going, you can get a shawl going, you can get anything that you would like to knit in Blacker Yarns. You can join me in that knit along, and I hope you will. I hope you will go visit the Woolly Thistles website, or Blacker Yarns in England, and order yourself something to join the knit along. I will be sharing my project with you in tomorrow's vlog. So with those exciting announcements, I'm going to say goodnight to you now. I'm going to go and have a little walk and I'm going to get back to my assessments, and hopefully I will get a little knitting in after my 15 minutes of spinning. I have been so excited about my spinning, and I'm looking forward to sharing my spinning adventures with you in, I think, the next day or two. So thank you again for joining me. If you're new to my channel, welcome. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Ravelry. If you send me questions, I will answer you just as soon as I possibly can. And I thank you so much for your time and your interest. And I will see you again tomorrow. Have a lovely evening or afternoon wherever you are. Goodbye, friends.